Psychometric testing? I just want a job, not a psychological evaluation. Fortunately, I know someone with the inside scoop on psychometrics.
Sarah, right?
Yes.
Yeah, should we go through? Just through here.
Okay.
I'm Howard Grosvenor and I'm a Chartered Occupational Psychologist with SHL.
What exactly is psychometric testing?
Literally, psychometric testing is measuring what's in the mind, and that could be a range of things from what you can do, so are you the kind of person who's good at working with numbers or good at working in three-dimensional space, through to how you go about doing things. So your style in terms of, do you need to be around other people at work, or would you rather have your own space? Are you very practical? Are you very theoretical?
Hi, James.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Come upstairs.
Oh, great, thanks.
I'm James Meachin, and I'm a business psychologist here at Pencandola. A psychometric test tends to come in one of two flavours. Firstly, you tend to get ability-based tests. They look at things like intelligence, so things like verbal reasoning and numerical reasoning. Secondly, you get more preference-based psychometric tests, so looking at people's personality, looking at people's motivations.
Essentially, companies use psychometric testing to fit people to jobs better, and that's good for the company because it has a direct effect on the company's profitability and efficiency, but it's also good for you as a candidate because it means that if you're successful, you'll end up doing a job that you enjoy and that's a good match for your skills. But also, if you're unsuccessful, then you've probably avoided something that you wouldn't have enjoyed doing, or that you might have found actually a struggle.
There's an awful lot of good evidence that psychometric tests work in the sense that they tell us something useful about what those people will be like when they get into a job.
There are loads of different types of tests. You have reasoning tests, which might look at numerical or verbal or logical or spatial reasoning, or checking information or understanding mechanical principles. You've got tests which ask you to, or which measure your work style, your motivation, your interests, your values even. Then you've got judgment type tests, which will put you in job situations and ask you to make a judgment about your preferred course of action or to rate different courses of action. And then you've got simulation exercises, so that might be a group exercise or a role play or a presentation or an in-tray type exercise.
That's a whole lot of tests. They can't possibly use all of them. Which ones are recruiters most likely to use?
The types of tests that recruiters will use depends largely on the job. So the first thing that any recruiter will do before they undertake a bit of recruitment activity is to sit down, have a good look at the job that they're recruiting for, and decide, okay, well, what are the key things for this job, and then decide on the assessment approach accordingly. Of course, it also depends on numbers. So if you're one of 100,000 applicants, you can expect to be tested quite a lot. If you're one of only 10, then you might go through to one of those the sort of later face-to-face stages where you're there with other candidates and recruiters face-to-face more quickly. Let's look at the inductive reasoning. So this is the test which looks at essentially your ability to come up with the rules given a set of symbols, so working across the top here. And you have to use your understanding of the rules that's underlying that sequence to choose which one of these 5 things comes next. So you can see the arrows going up, down, up, down, up. And so the next one's probably going to be one of these down arrows. Click on that and it'll tell you that you've got it correct. Thank goodness for that.
Psychometric tests essentially are a two-way street. On the one hand, of course, they tell potential employers about candidates, but they can also tell candidates a little bit about themselves and the employer. So, for example, I mentioned personality questionnaires. Personality questionnaires are a very good way to help people understand about their own preferences and their own personal style. For example, are you the sort of person who enjoys working with detail? Are you the sort of person who likes working at a very fast pace? Or do you prefer working maybe at a more steady pace?
Come on, you guys create psychometric tests. Give us your top tips.
The most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is to be comfortable with what's going to be required of you in a testing process. A really good way to do that is to look, for example, at our online test practice site, which is shldirect.com, and on there you'll find information about all the different types of tests, so that you can know exactly what you're going to be required to do.
And really what the practice helps you do is it helps you feel comfortable with the questionnaire. So what a lot of research finds is that where people are less familiar and perhaps less comfortable with tests, they will naturally suffer a degree of anxiety. Now that anxiety ends up actually distracting people from the task at hand, which can lower people's performance. So practicing will make you better in the sense that it'll make you more comfortable.
If you practice, are you not cheating yourself in some way? Because you might not be the right person for the job.
So when it comes to personality testing, yes, that's absolutely true. And in fact, I wouldn't recommend second guessing because often you may be wrong anyway. Often personality questionnaires are used to help interviews. So for instance, if someone comes up as very extrovert, you'll probably get asked questions about how that works for you in practice. Now, if in reality you're not really like that, the risk is the interview probably won't go so well. Now, you'll normally find that they feel quite repetitive, and often people think, oh, is this a test of, am I answering in the same way? And actually, it's not really that at all. It's just about getting a sense of, if someone's very extrovert, for example, they'll always say yes to the questions about socialising. Most people who are kind of in the middle will sometimes say yes and sometimes say no. So it's not a test of, am I being completely consistent?
99.9% of the time, people are really struck by just how accurate the results are. So anecdotally as well as scientifically, they're accurate.
So it turns out psychometric tests aren't as scary as they sound. In fact, a personality-based test could well tell you what job you're suited for. And even an ability-based test will at least make sure you don't do a job that you're no good at. But don't leave it to chance, make sure you practice.